Hello and welcome to a divisional round edition of the Kama Sutra Show. My name is Adam Levitan, as always, joined by Andrew Wiggins and Evan Silva to get you set for the four-game slate this weekend. We have four very interesting games, close games. I think we have some the flat, just the flat playoff stuff continues, and I think that flows through to DFS. Well, you'll see as we go through this, it's pretty flat at quarterback, I think, which flows through at the team level as well. Anyways, Silva, how's it going this morning?
It's going great. Wow. Congratulations again to Rick Lubroff. My goodness. Leave some money for the other people.
Uh, wait, I was in that thing, Rick Luberoff. It's enough already, bro. Leave some for the rest of us, buddy. Jesus. Wiggins, how's it going this morning?
Yeah, big decision. Do you wear Bears jersey or Grateful Dead theme shirt? But the Bears will win, so we'll have another opportunity for that. And Bob Weir's gone forever, so rest in peace to Bobby, true American hero.
Agreed. Did you see George Kittle gave a tribute to Bobby on his cleats, which then he popped his Achilles while wearing the tribute to Bobby wear. Not the best, but was
Not
George
a
Kittle's
great
the man.
look.
Yes, not the best, but love George Kittle. I couldn't believe he was shouting out Bobby Weir on his cleats for the game. Amazing. Anyways, we're gonna go position by position this week, and so we'll start at the quarterback position. To me, you have to start with Josh Allen. When you get into these playoff spots, we already have huge rushing bumps on Josh Allen. In terms of designed runs, we're talking like 2x as many, and then the scramble rate can go up as well. It's kind of accentuated, all the rushing stuff and the rushing touchdowns, by his lack of weaponry. It's like these guys aren't going to be open. Let's tuck and run. Now, obviously, the Broncos know this, Evan. The other point that I wanted to make on Josh Allen is Broncos defense has not been good for a very long time. Like we talked about this on Tuesday, shredded by Jacksonville. I mean, absolutely shredded by the Packers. Their EPA per play on defense is like middle of the pack since midseason. They have not been getting as good of a pass rush. Now, bye week is huge this time of year, and it's different than a regular season bye week. During playoff bye weeks, teams are allowed to practice. During regular season bye weeks, NFLPA negotiated that to be an off week for the players. So they were in there grinding this week. Evan, what do you think about Josh Allen against this version of the Broncos defense?
Well, I think, first of all, Josh Allen kind of assuaged concerns about his foot injury last week. He had one of the best games that he's played. Greg Cosell was saying that he thought that was Josh Allen's one of his best games that he's ever played as like a quarterback last week. So he's playing at a high level. He's got injuries all around him, or at least in the pass catcher core. I mean, I don't even know what to think about Dalton Kincaid. Um, and not that Tyrell Shavers is any kind of a difference maker, or Gabe Davis, but I mean those were guys that the Bills were relying on. It's all about just betting on Josh Allen, the player, because there are really no advantages. I understand the Broncos showed some vulnerability defensively late in the year, and their pass rush hasn't been what it was early in the season. But at Denver,
Yeah.
still a very imposing matchup. I saw a stat from Next Gen Stats. This is crazy. On Riley Moss, the Broncos' number 2 cornerback, he's been targeted more times this year than any cornerback in the NFL, but he's allowed a 53% completion rate. Like Riley Moss is really good. It's just he plays opposite Patrick Surtain. So he ends up giving up a lot of production, but he's like really good. I mean, 53% completion rate. That is excellent into his coverage. I think the Broncos defense is awesome, and they should be regarded as that. So this is just a bet on Josh Allen straight up.
So the one thing about this is when you play against Denver, you don't want to win through perimeter wide receiver stuff, right? Because that's where they excel. You want to win through running back targets and tight end targets. And the Bills can actually win there, right? Like Dalton Kincaid, if he's healthy, he was not on the final injury report, but Dalton Kincaid, in theory, has a really good matchup here. Dawson Knox, in theory, has a really good matchup here, or at least a better matchup than the perimeter wide receivers. So I think it's a little bit cleaner on the stacking this week. We'll get to Bills pass catchers when we get there, but a little bit cleaner to me because just like, you know what, man, like all these perimeter guys, even Shakir, I'm not excited about. But Josh Allen with running backs and tight ends, I kind of think that's where he targets most in this game. Now, Wiggins, the decision in cash, at least for those of us playing top cash. And by the way, the promo that we ran for ETR Survivor this year was if you won Survivor, the ETR Survivor contest, you got to play me in a 5K head to head in wildcard week. A bunch of people tied, so they had a DFS contest. So I'm playing 3 guys this week in a head to head, one for 5K, one for 3K, and one for 2K. So yeah, I actually need to really focus on my cash team here. I can't be punting off 9K of ETR money. We can't afford that. So I think the question in cash, Wiggins, is do you get up to Darnold? Do you get up to Allen? You can also go Bo Nix, which is what it mean a lot of our optimals, which I'm not overly comfortable with. Or you can go down to Sam Darnold, who we'll talk about with this oblique thing that popped up. What do you think cash on DraftKings quarterback, Wiggins?
Yeah, I don't know if it's just a playoff thing or I'm just feeling frisky or what, but last week I had a really good week in cash. I think I won all the cash slates on DraftKings, and I wasn't playing the optimal on any of them. Like I remember on the 4-game or the full weekend one, I played Brandon Cooks, so I could kind of jam in all the studs, and I gave up some projection, but I think it was probably the right play. But anyway, I'm looking at the optimals this week, and Bo Nix is kind of flooding them, and he's not really my favorite. And the big decision, I think, in cash is, do you jam in the 3 big guys? Are you getting CMC, JSN, and Puka in there? And if you do that, then you got to go down. You're playing the 49ers D. You're not playing Colston Loveland. Those 2 things to me are kind of big misses. Like I want to have Loveland in my lineup. So I don't know. That's the big decision point. You're going to see Knicks flooding everything. I would feel pretty comfortable dropping down to Sam Darnold, but I'm a little bit concerned about his oblique injury. I don't think he's any risk of missing the game, but I don't know. We want everything going in Sam Darnold's favor.
Yeah, I think just to go, we'll talk about Darnold in a second. Just to stick on Allen in cash for a second. If you play Allen in cash on DraftKings, you cannot play both of the big wide receivers. You cannot play both Puka and JSN. You can play Allen with CMC and Puka, or CMC and JSN, and still get Loveland. So from that perspective, I do think Allen is at least interesting. If you're willing to drop down,
let me just throw something on Allen. Like I'm pretty interested in getting up to Allen. I like him more than maybe the projection would imply, as far as like I think the gap should be wider. The dude's just so good. I mean, he did everything last week. Like he injured his knee, he injured his hand, he injured his head. It didn't even matter. He's just a warrior. So I want Warriors in my lineup. I'm not that worried about the Broncos D. I think the Bills are going to show up. But
I love it.
The biggest problem with Allen is I'm not finding a good way to make the pieces fit. Like you start dropping down, then maybe you're looking at playing 2 Houston receivers, which I guess is okay. I'm not thrilled about it. Like you're probably dropping down off of RJ Harvey. Like the pieces just don't quite fit in a way that I feel really comfortable. Whereas like last week, you could just drop in Cooks and like everything else was great. So like whatever, I'll give up a little bit of projection here to get everything else in my lineup. So right now, I don't think there's necessarily a clear build for cash. I'm going to try and get up to Allen, see if I can figure out something that works. Because I mean, he just seems like far and away the best quarterback play here, doesn't he?
Well, certainly from a ceiling perspective, I think it's pretty flat at quarterback. As we kind of have it here, like we have every quarterback basically in play except for maybe Stroud. And I think that's kind of right where quarterback is pretty flat here on this slate. Let's stick with this game, Evan. The other side of the game, Bo Nix. It has been hard to throw on Buffalo this season. They have given up a lot of rushing yards to quarterbacks, and Bo Nix certainly can run. So I am interested in some Bo Nix rushing stuff here. It's hard for me to see it, though, from a throwing perspective. Evan, what do you think on Bo Nix here? Or at least a ceiling from a throwing perspective. What do you think about Bo Nix here against the Bills at home in pretty good weather?
Yeah, I think he's all right. He's been really, really up and down, I think, as a player. He'll have like 3 or 4 game stretches where you're like, oh, man, the light is really flipping on for him. And then he'll play like crap against the Raiders or the Chiefs backups, or, he's just really, really frustrating from a consistency standpoint. It's funny that the Bills have given up a lot of rushing yards to quarterbacks because they play a lot of zone, and we know that zone defenses tend to not allow as many rushing yards to quarterbacks. So I wonder if that's a function of just the quarterbacks individually that the Bills have faced. Have they faced a disparate number of running quarterbacks? But Bo Nix is a running quarterback. I mean, I think he was 11th in the NFL in rushing yards among quarterbacks. He was 8th in the NFL in passing yards. He's a tricky guy. He's a tricky guy, and it's a tricky matchup because the Bills sell out to stop the pass.
Yeah.
They do not allow big plays in the passing game, and they play a ton of dime defense. They play more dime defense than any team in the NFL.
Yeah. So to me, I think we're a little bit hot, in my opinion. And we looked at this and we checked it and everything, but I think in my head we're a little hot. Bo Nix. If I was going to IKB the projection, we're a little hot. Bo Nix here. I will say, like, volatility is the name of the game on Bo Nix. He can play really, really well, and he can play really, really bad. Probably much more so than a lot of other quarterbacks on this slate. Like, the range of outcomes on Bo Nix, I think, is wider. And maybe that's not ideal for cash. Like, our projection could be right here and as a mean, and it could still not be the best play for cash. That's kind of the way that I'm thinking about it. Let's go to Seattle.
Even just let me toss in one thing. Even using the blended projections, I'm still getting Bo Nix as the quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily clear. And you have to keep in mind, like, I'm weighting ETR a little heavier into the blended stuff, so that does play in. But yeah, I think he'll probably be the most Do you think he'll be the most popular in cash? I think so.
Probably, just because it's so many opto bros. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's totally fine to play in cash. Like, one way to approach this is you could just play Bo Nix. You could jam in all the studs, not give it any thought, and move on. I think that's fine. It might be more fun to get a little off the board and do some IKBing, but there's certainly nothing wrong with playing that team that has the 3 studs in it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Seattle, San Francisco, Evan. This is on paper a really good matchup for Sam Darnold, I think, because Sam Darnold crumbles under pressure and San Francisco just cannot pressure the quarterback whatsoever. Every time Sam Darnold's melted down, it's because he has guys in his face. He's getting blitzed. His eyes start to drop, and he just punts off. I do not think that's going to be the case here against San Francisco. He should have a very, very, very clean pocket. So from that perspective, it looks good. I should note that yesterday he pops up with some oblique thing. He says it's not a big deal. He's definitely playing, but it's certainly not ideal to have an oblique injury heading in to this game. Evan, what do you think about Darnold against the 49ers?
Yeah, it's dicey. And oblique is like in here too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that can affect a quarterback, so that's concerning. I mean, Drew Lock was in there taking first team snaps on Thursday.
Yeah.
The matchup is great, as you mentioned. I mean, Phillip Rivers cooked the 49ers, and you look at Phillip Rivers' other 2 starts. He didn't do anything in his other 2 starts, and he cooked the 49ers. So you're right.
Caleb had a first half where he actually scored points against the 49ers as well.
Yeah.
That's right. The Bears put up, 31 or something on them?
A little more than that. I think it was 38.
So a lot of points. Yeah. I don't – and I don't know. This is your path. Wiggins as a Bears laundry bro, this is your path, man. You need the weather to affect the Bears-Rams game, and you need the 49ers to upset Seattle. And then I think if San Francisco goes to Chicago for the NFC Championship game, Bears are going to the Super Bowl, buddy.
Laundry.
Don't you dare.
Laundry.
Get me too excited. I mean, it seems pretty clear, though. I think the Bears got a real shot here. Anyway, we'll get to the Bears. We do. I want to point out, I don't believe right now we have an injury doc on Darnold, but that's probably going to be coming, I think. So he'll come down a little bit.
Yeah, the QDocs on quarterback is not, like, the data showed, like, QDocs on quarterback is not nearly as strong as QDocs on the other one. So I don't think we're going to come down on Darnold that much. However, if I was going to play these teams that try to fit in Puka, JSN, and CMC, I think I'd still find a way to play Nix over Darnold personally. I know it's tempting to drop down to Darnold, but with Nix, you get the rushing ability and just on a projection basis, and you don't have the oblique thing. So yeah, it's like such a better matchup for Darnold, but I still think I'd go Nix there over Darnold.
Regardless of opponent, I always get a little bit worried and skeptical about Sam Darnold in big spots, and this oblique thing just kind of amplifies that worry.
Sure. The other side of this is Brock Purdy. I do not think Brock Purdy is going to be played very much at all, especially after what they did in week 18, where they scored just 3 points at home against this Seahawks defense. Now, I should note, Trent Williams did not play in that game. And I kind of feel like that hasn't been talked about enough this week. Oh, they only scored 3 points. Well, Trent Williams is like one of the most valuable players in the entire league. He'll be back here this week to face them. I think that matters. Does it matter enough where I like Purdy? Not really, especially. And the thing that bothers me most is George Kittle, not just like on the field, not just in the pass game, but just like overall functionality of the offense. And like George Kittle's like a leader, like gives them so much energy. It rubs me the wrong way that they don't have Kittle here for Purdy. So, Evan, any thoughts on San Francisco and Purdy here at Seattle?
Yeah, I could not agree more about George Kittle. That is just so deflating. And then you add in, like, I don't trust Ricky Pearsall's knee at all. Demarcus Robinson was freaking unbelievable last week in place of Ricky Pearsall, but I don't know that you can continue that at Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle, like, their defense is completely healthy right now. And they have, they finished the regular season as number 1 in DVOA defense. So it's hard for me to have optimism about Brock Purdy, even with Trent Williams back in. Trent Williams, he played last week, of course. He was full practice on Thursday and Friday. So I feel good about Trent Williams, and that does matter. But no Kittle at Seattle. God, that's really, really rough.
And it's going to be a night game also up there in Seattle on Saturday night. The Sunday games, let's go to New England. Everybody just cannot stop talking about the schedule. The schedule. Drake May hasn't played anyone. The schedule. I just think Drake May is awesome. And like, yes, this is a very, very, very difficult matchup. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I'm not saying I like Drake May in fantasy that much, but I do think that he's going to play well and better than people think, even though it's against Houston. It's just hard in fantasy to find a ceiling when you play this Texans defense. Evan, any hope for you on Drake May in fantasy this week?
Yeah, even like my high school buddies are like, oh, should I bet on, should I bet against New England? Like their schedule, and I'm like, dude, like, get over it. Like, they beat every team on their schedule, beat a lot of them really badly.
Yeah.
They have a great coach. Drake May is one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL. He has succeeded despite having one of the weakest supporting casts in the NFL. Like, the Patriots are legit. And we knew going into the season that their schedule was going to be weak. That's why I was like on the Patriots big time, entering the season. But they took care of business and they beat teams badly. They have one of the best point differentials in the NFL. They have a lot better point differential than Denver. So that all that kind of stuff matters. I mean, the big concern obviously is Houston's defense.
Well, yeah. And speaking of rushing quarterbacks, I talked about Bo Nix rushing. Drake May, like, you can run. Quarterbacks have run on the Texans also, and Drake May, I think, is even a better runner probably than Bo Nix. So you can see it there. That would be like a large field type of thing only, though, for me on Drake May. The one quarterback that we have like almost out of play from a mean perspective would be CJ Stroud. No Nico Collins. Weather is going to be cold at New England. Got a bunch of their defenders back last week. I don't think anybody's playing Stroud, including me, probably here. You get no rushing ability either. So, yeah, I think we can kind of move on from that.
I mean, the one reason you might consider him is just because he has so many cheap pass catchers. I'd probably rather play him than Drake May, even though I think Drake May in a vacuum is a way better play. Just because of the savings you get, and that can get you up to all the other studs.
That's fair. If you play like a Stroud with Schultz and Kirk, or Stroud with Kirk and Hutchinson or something like that, and that actually hits and it allows you to get CMC, Loveland, Puka, JSN, whatever you want of the studs.
Right.
Yeah, that's a path to that hit.
So, yeah, just a couple more thoughts on that. One, nobody's playing Stroud. I think of the receivers, Hutchinson's going to be the most owned by far. Jaden Higgins is at a price point that I don't think his ownership's really going to get away. And then Schultz is kind of getting buried because of Tonjes and AJ Barner's cheaper, and then everyone wants to play Loveland. So,
right.
And then you have Kincaid out there too. So, like, you just feel good about the ownership there. It's kind of interesting to me, but yeah, it's probably more of a large field thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
and one more point there. I think this is a slate where the quarterback as a whole is pretty weak. And Josh Allen's really the only guy that I'm scared about running away with it, but he's at Denver. So, like, Josh Allen could come in with 22 points very easily. And if you get 15 from Stroud with that price discount and like 2 of the touchdowns go to the receivers you play, like Higgins and Schultz, for instance, that's pretty good.
yeah, I think that's interesting for sure. I hadn't considered that. I think that's interesting.
Here's what the Patriots are going to do, though, with no Nico Collins, is they're going to play a ton of man coverage. They are going to challenge what the Texans have left at receiver in man coverage, and they're going to go to town with pressure against Houston, and Houston is not good. CJ Stroud isn't good when you get him jittery.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to see on paper. I mean, I understand what you guys are saying from a price standpoint and all that. It's really hard to see on paper.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just checking Thorne's offensive line rankings, but I'm pretty confident that Houston has the worst offensive line remaining in the
Yeah, he's got him at 8.
the worst offensive line left in the playoffs is the Texans. Okay. Well, Laundry Bros, we have reached your favorite portion of the program, Rams Bears, coming on Sunday. Matthew Stafford hasn't played that well for the last month or so, but that's allowed him to rack up a bunch of stats because when he's throwing picks or whatever, they get down and Stafford starts throwing a lot. He racks up these huge games. The weather FUD for this game is around 0 degrees, going to feel like maybe negative out there. Wind doesn't look too bad. The total was at 50, 51. It's now at 48.5, but it's held pretty strong here at 48.5, and that is still the highest total of the week. So, I don't want to go overboard on weather FUD here. I'd also note that Matthew Stafford went to Philadelphia in the freaking snow last year and went over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game as well. So I'm not really going to get all caught up in the weather FUD at all. Evan, what do you think about Stafford? We'll start with here at Chicago.
You're saying that you don't think that the wind is going to be bad?
Doesn't look that bad, the wind.
That makes a big difference.
It'll be standard, 10 to 20 miles an hour.
It could be 30 degrees out, and if the wind's blowing, it's freaking freezing.
Yeah.
And it can be 15 degrees, and if the wind isn't blowing, it's fine.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference. Not on So
So
I don't know. And that kind of thing can change hour to hour in Chicago.
Right. So for sure. And right now it looks like sustained 10 to 15 miles an hour, gusts 20 to 25 miles an hour, but we still have a lot of time till kickoff.
Yeah. Man, I don't know if you guys saw Alex Smith was this week, he's kind of an up and coming analyst. Obviously, he played quarterback in the NFL. Everybody knows that, but he's, getting his analyst career going. He was the Rams are going to put 50 on the Bears. I don't know if they'll be able to do that in the weather. But if this game were played in a clean environment, like in a dome, I think the Rams might be able to put 50 on the Bears. The Bears defense, I mean, it's just going to be over and over and over. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, the tight ends, Kyron. The Bears can't stop any of that.
Yeah.
So the Bears need the weather to be a really big factor. They badly need that, and I guess we'll see about the weather.
Yeah.
Typically, as you guys know, when we get worried about the weather, it ends up not mattering 9 out of 10 times.
Right. I do not think that Matthew Stafford is the worst salary adjusted play on the slate. In fact, I actually think that the 3 quarterbacks that I would show up with in cash would either be Josh, Stafford, or Nix. Now, projections do not agree. I'm IK being all over the place here, but I like Stafford more than our projection for sure. I'm surprised that he shows up as our worst salary adjusted one here. Wiggins, any thoughts on Mr. Stafford?
Well, it's super tight, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, you look at the ownership, and outside of Stroud, everybody's pretty much the same. And I kind of think Caleb will come in higher. So, yeah, give some of that Darnold to Caleb, I think would make sense. And it's just everyone's 12 to 15%. I think as far as Stafford and cash, to me, he's just too close to Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I'm finding that $500. But I'm with you, man. I like Stafford a lot. I think he's a great tournament play. As a Bears fan, I'm hoping the weather fought on Stafford. There's some numbers going around about him in cold weather games, and it's not great. And he's a Southern boy, but I'm hoping that's true. But I probably wouldn't let that influence my DFS decisions here.
Yeah, and you can definitely play Stafford doubles, and then they are getting all the tight ends back here, which sucks because I liked when Ferguson was out, and you could play one of Parkinson or Higbee pretty confidently. We'll get to that, but it's a little bit harder here this week with all the tight ends here healthy. On the Caleb side of this, no Ozzy Trapillo for him, and obviously a very talented Rams defense here. It's going to be cold for Caleb as well. And Caleb can't complete a pass in the first 3 quarters of any game ever. So I think the Rams win the game. I'm sorry to tell you guys. I think the Rams win the game relatively easily. Like, you can't keep getting away.
Prediction from Adam Levitan.
You can't keep getting away with this, man. You can't keep getting away with not completing a pass for 3 quarters of a game and trying to win NFL games. So we'll see. I think the Rams win. I don't love Caleb here, but I do think that, like, obviously Loveland is an awesome play, but getting Burden involved here, I think, makes sense as well, especially with Rome talking about his foot more. So, yeah, Evan, any hope for you on the Caleb front this week?
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams is a special talent, and I think that this is a game where he could run quite a bit. This is a game where, I mean, the Bears' run game hasn't been very good lately, number one, and the Rams' pass defense has been vulnerable lately.
Oh, yeah.
This needs to be a Caleb game from start to finish. I think this is a game where Ben Johnson goes to Caleb. This is you, buddy. You know, we've been trying to run the ball early in games. It hasn't really worked out well. We're overmatched this week. Caleb game. And the way that you hurt the Rams in particular is actually a perimeter receiver mostly.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually maybe a sneaky game for Odunze, who has not been good in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that he's particularly interesting this week. DJ Moore, maybe to a little bit lesser extent, but I think this has to be a Caleb game. And that, to me, opens it up that I kind of really like Caleb as a bet, maybe to have like the best game on the slate among quarterbacks.
Okay, yeah, that's fair for sure. I agree with you that the best way to beat the Rams undoubtedly is by throwing the football and throwing it to the perimeter. Rome Odunze is dealing with, I believe he said a stress fracture or something in his foot, but he's playing through it, and he
played a good number last week. He was almost 70%, I think.
Yeah. He ran more routes than Luther Burden did, last week did Rome Odunze. Wiggins, I guess we need your laundry bro take. Where do you come in on Caleb this week?
Yeah, I mean, I like him a lot. He is a little difficult to stack. Like, obviously, I can't imagine you would play him without Loveland. I mean,
yeah,
Loveland had 15 targets last week.
Yeah.
And honestly, it felt like he should have had more, didn't it? Like, I was just screaming at the TV, like, throw it to Loveland. Keep throwing to Loveland. And luckily it worked out. But yeah, you go back to that. Let me get back to that ownership here. We have him as the second least owned quarterback. I don't know. I'm not buying that. But if he is, he's the best play on the slate at quarterback position.
Yeah. I mean, you're playing with Loveland. You're obviously playing a lot of ownership, but on 4-game slates, like, there's tons of stuff that you can do to save ownership in other places. All right. Anything else at quarterback before we move on? I think we touched on all 8.
I think we hit it all.
Running back position, obviously difficult matchup for CMC, but the role is just so outrageous. He's going to separate massively here. Obviously, I'm going to show up in cash with Christian McCaffrey, the ultimate cash game player, really in his whole entire career. The other side of this game at running back, I think, is more interesting, Evan, the Charbonnet versus Walker debate. Obviously, Walker gives you more juice. Charbonnet has been gaining on him lately, though, in usage. It's going to be close, I think, in usage is the bottom line. Any preference for you, Evan, this week between Walker and Charbonnet?
Yeah, I like Charbonnet. I think he's a better bet to score a touchdown. I actually think they can both have good games in the same game, though. And I think in DFS, I'd strongly consider playing both of them. Same with the Rams running backs. I think both of those guys can be good. Both of the Seahawks running backs can be good. Their quarterback has an oblique injury and isn't exactly trustworthy in big moments. So this game should be put on the shoulders of Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet gets the ball in scoring position more. It's funny, Charbonnet plays more in passing situations theoretically, but Kenneth Walker has like 11 more targets on the season.
Yeah.
Because Charbonnet does so much pass blocking. But yeah, I think that both of them will be good. Charles Cross is back too for Seattle. That really helps.
Yeah. And Fred Warner still not cleared to return. I know there was some talk about that. So they are down again to Eric Kendricks.
And they're down to Eric Kendricks at middle linebacker. Kendricks did play really well last week, which was one of the biggest reasons that San Francisco had the upset. But I don't know if he can repeat that two weeks in a row.
So one of the reasons I really like Charbonnet and Walker here is people think that it's like, oh, San Francisco's defense is back. The Eagles' offense has been broken all year. Just because the San Francisco defense played well against the Eagles does not mean the San Francisco defense is going to play well here against Seattle. Like, Eagles' offense is just broken, man. So I think Seattle is going to play well here. San Francisco's talent on defense, their ability to tackle, like if you go back and watch that Week 18 game, they could not tackle anyone whatsoever, and now they're down even more to Eric Kendricks at middle linebacker. So I like Charbonnet and Walker both. I think the question, Wiggins, is if you want to play one of these guys, and I think Charbonnet would be the preference, you save 200 and he has a little bit better projection here, and Silva prefers Charbonnet over Walker. You have to come off RJ Harvey, and RJ Harvey is in a very, very good matchup here against Buffalo. So Wiggins, what do you think about the RB2 spot here on DraftKings?
Yeah. I'll note that we're the only site across the DFS industry that I'm looking at right now, at least the ones I've tracked, that has Walker ahead. I'm sorry, I meant to say Charbonnet ahead. Everyone else still has Walker ahead. But when I was listening to some content this morning, people seem to like Charbonnet. So I think he's going to be more owned, which of course, like as soon as the projection has him ahead and everybody plays Charbonnet, like that'll be the week that Walker goes off. So I think Walker is a really, really good tournament play. And I agree, you can play both of them. To answer your question about cash, I think it's Harvey or Charbonnet. I think they're pretty similar plays with the price difference, honestly. We have Harvey as a better price-adjusted play. It's a great spot for him. The Buffalo run defense is really poor, and it would make sense for them to lean into that. But you have a 26 team total for Seattle, given, their quarterback is a little banged up. It hasn't really moved. Like, I really do feel like they're going to have a very run-heavy approach here. And it just, like, I would be surprised if Charbonnet doesn't score a touchdown. I really would.
Yeah, so 7-point home favorites, obviously a good spot to play the touchdown scoring running back, which is, of course, Zach Charbonnet. Evan, we need your take on RJ Harvey here because it's a pretty big decision whether you want to stick with Harvey or go down to Charbonnet. Harvey gets an incredible matchup. All year it's just been run on Buffalo, and even like 30-year backs against Buffalo also because they're so good against perimeter wide receivers. So awesome matchup for RJ Harvey here. What do you think about him versus someone like Charbonnet?
The matchup is great. The role is not great, but good. And they give him the ball in scoring position, and they like to design plays to get him the ball in the passing game. The only thing that holds me back a little bit with RJ Harvey is like, I kind of still don't know how good he is. And he has like come up short in some great spots like this, but he's also had some really nice games. So I'm sort of on the fence about him, but he checks a number of boxes. Good role, great matchup, at home in Denver. The game certainly shouldn't get out of hand in the opposite direction. So neutral to positive game script. A lot of things to like about him on paper.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to play James Cook due to the price in cash. But I think for tournaments, James Cook is definitely in play. I mentioned all the problems that Denver's defense has had lately. Ty Johnson is questionable for this game. We have him projected in right now, but I don't know if Ty Johnson is going to play or not. Either way, James Cook's role didn't really expand last week without Ty Johnson, but he still touched the ball so many times. Ray Davis, I don't believe he even touched the ball in that game, or maybe he did a few times.
No, he had 0 touches.
Yeah.
But he did play 32% of the snaps, Ray Davis, but he had 0 touches.
Right.
I think James Cook could get 30 touches in this game.
Exactly. And like, if you think the Broncos defense is not as good as maybe public perception, I think James Cook's a really, really interesting tournament play here. Wiggins, any final thoughts on those backs before we move on to the Sunday backs?
Yeah, I was just looking at our defense versus position and noticed that the Bills they were up around like 6-7% against running backs for most of the season. So they've been slightly better of late. Not that much different than the 49ers even. So I just wanted to note that, but obviously a good spot. But you wonder like if they get behind, RJ Harvey can still catch passes, but they could end up abandoning the run. So I don't know. I think the more I think about it, I'm kind of in on Charbonnet as the cash play. But it's really close. And yeah, James Cook, I don't think you're considering him for cash, but very, very good tournament play.
Okay. Let's go to the New England backs here. I talked about last week how I thought Stevenson was clearly the better play than Travion. I think market had it different. This week, market's going to be way more on Stevenson than Travion. And we have Travion almost like fully out of play at this point. It's tough because Travion can break huge plays. And, obviously we have really weak efficiency on both of these guys because they're playing Houston this week. I just don't see like reason for New England to change. Ramondre's been so good. They trust him in the pass game so much more. I think around the goal line, they'll play either of them, like who's ever in, maybe like a slight lean to Stevenson. I don't think it's like a strong lean to Stevenson. So I don't think either of these guys are going to be played very much due to matchup. Evan, any hope for you on Ramondre or Travion here this week?
Not a whole lot really to add, to what you said there. We talked about it on the Tuesday show. Ramondre Stevenson over his last 6 games is like the best receiving running back of all time. And he gets the ball in scoring position. So he's at least a little bit enticing. With Travion, hey, he has the ability to break big plays. So he can theoretically overcome the fact that he might only get 9 to 11 touches with those big plays. But that's what you need is big plays from him.
Right. And that's kind of one thing I'm thinking about on this slate. If we think it's going to be kind of lower scoring slate, and I kind of do, are there guys that can do it on low volume? The guys that I've circled for that would be Travion Henderson, Rashid Shaheed, Luther Burden. Those were the guys I was like, man, yeah, the volume projection isn't great, but they can make like a 60-yard touchdown and break the slate. So yeah, I would include Travion in there. The Woody Marks stuff is tough, man. They do not throw him the football. It's ridiculous. And Jawar Jordan might be back this week. Woody Marks did play an awesome, awesome game. This week he has faced Milton Williams. So I wasn't planning on playing much Woody Marks here at all. Maybe some game log people end up watching it. But yeah, Evan, what do you think about Woody against the Patriots?
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about the freaking receiving stuff. I mean, we've been talking about this for freaking months.
Yeah.
And it just has not changed. I kept thinking, yeah, it'll reverse. He had 300 catches in college. Like, yeah, eventually they'll put that in. I don't know what the heck the deal is.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I guess maybe the best explanation, they really like him as a pass protector, and they know that they can't protect up front. I mean, I haven't, I don't understand it. And no question, like the Patriots get back, they were kind of struggling against the run in the second half of the season. They get back Milton Williams and Robert Spillane, and like they're a good run defense again.
Rams backs, we already kind of talked about. You can play both. Kyren, I think, he'll be significantly ahead or decently ahead in snaps. He'll probably be slightly ahead in touches, but Corum is clearly more explosive. Like you just have to have 2 eyes to see that. We have Kyren way ahead though, based on a lot of touchdown stuff around the red zone, around the goal line. They trust Kyren so much here. I don't really love either of these guys. I think Kyron's going to be reasonably owned. We have like 16% here, but yeah, Wiggins. We have Blake Corum 1% interests me way more than Kyren 16%, I think. But yeah, Wiggins, any thoughts on the Rams backs?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add there. I think Corum wouldn't be a guy I would be playing in small field stuff. Definitely worth mixing in large field.
Yeah.
Kyren, like at that ownership, I think Kyren is pretty interesting. He can go for 25 and you're getting him at.
It's just got to be touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, he's one of the guys on the slate that can score a bunch of touchdowns. I like it a little bit better on FanDuel, the Kyren stuff, but yeah. And then on the other side, Swift versus Monangai, Evan, it seems like it's still been roughly even. We do have Swift ahead in projection by like 3.4 here. What do you think about Swift and Monangai against the Rams, Evan?
They're just okay. Tough matchup. Even split. Running game just has not been hitting on all cylinders as an operation. So they're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like Corum and Kyron, obviously. I mean, awesome matchup. That running game has been hitting on all cylinders. Kyron plays like kind of a lot more snaps than Corum, but when Corum's in the game, he gets the ball and he's good.
The only off the board, like way off the board guy that was at least on my list was Jaleel McLaughlin, just because he has really good matchup and he's going to touch the ball. But, I don't think I would do that outside of like lotto type stuff on McLaughlin. All right. Anything else on running back? All right. A wide receiver, two of the best players on the slate, or maybe the two best players on the slate outside of McCaffrey, are going to be Puka and JSN. We have Puka slightly ahead. I've seen other people say they think JSN is a better play this week. I always default to like which one has the wide receiver kingmaker, and that's Puka Nacua. So my gut was Puka over JSN, but if you wanted to argue JSN is the better play here, I wouldn't like hate you for it. Evan, what do you think straight up between Puka and JSN this week? Who scores more?
Oh, shoot. Did you just ask me Puka versus JSN? I'm sorry. I was popping in a lozenge.
Puka or JSN straight up for you this week?
Man. I think Puka. Puka, yeah. And I guess our projection agrees with that.
Yeah.
Just slightly, but they should both just go to town.
Right. And so
Puka, oh my God, just over and over and over. It's going to be so many targets. And there's nobody on the Bears that has a chance against him. My God.
Yeah.
Jalen Johnson did a podcast again this week, and they asked him, he was talking about his surgery. He had double groin surgery. He's had multiple setbacks. He's out there. He basically admitted, the guys asked him. So he described the surgery, and then the guys asked him, but you're all good. You're all good now, right? And he goes, yeah. Like that was literally his answer. Yeah. Like he knows he's not good. He basically he's out there at like 60%, and you could see it. Oh my God! Especially in that final game against the Lions, Jamison Williams would just run right by him every single time. Yeah, Puka is going to destroy.
And so you can play both these guys, Wiggins, but if you play one, you can save 500 by going down to JSN. Do you think it's a priority to get to Puka here and eat the 500?
Indeed, I do. I might have 100% Puka on this slate.
All right. He's a Puka man. I like the teams that play both of them. It's obviously really hard to fit. It sounds like Wiggins thinks Loveland is a must, though. And if you think
I don't necessarily, and we'll get to that. It's just I do think it's a decision point. I mean, I think Loveland is the most underpriced player on the slate. So going into it without him, when he can blow away everyone at the tight end position, like you end up playing AJ Barner, who's probably going to give you 5, and Loveland just keeps doing what he's doing and gives you 25. Yeah. That's a problem. But I think it's a really close decision.
If the Bears do what we think that they should do, and that's just make this a 100% Caleb game, what is the freaking ceiling on Colston Loveland? My God.
Yeah.
He had 15 targets last week.
Right.
And then they, were trying to run the ball. And
the thing is, wide receiver is not that deep, right? After you get past Puka and JSN, you're into a bunch of dust balls here. So you talk about separating with Loveland. Well, if you have Puka and JSN, you could separate massively with those two guys as well. They each go for a 30 ball, and other people are stuck with like freaking Khalil Shakir and stuff like that. That's a separator too also. So I think it's close between, because I do like Tongas and I do like Schultz. I think Barner is like okay. So there's some other tight end options, though, I guess is my point. But yeah,
I think that's a really good point, and I don't think you can consider fading CMC and Cash, but I do think there's more paths to the other running backs kind of getting close to CMC than, we'll get into all these receivers, but it's really pretty rough. So
right.
I think in tournaments, I'm going to be underweight CMC and overweight Puka and JSN just because of the way that the build works out.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't think you can really consider that in cash, given how much of a runaway value CMC is.
Yeah. Okay. I mentioned that it's weak at wide receiver after you get past Puka and JSN. I mean, our next best salary adjusted play is Cortland Sutton, who has a very difficult matchup here, Evan. I mean, I talked about Bo Nix being like kind of lukewarmish on him. You can have Sutton, Devontae Adams. Once you get past those guys, it's like really bleak. And I don't even love Sutton here that much. So, Evan, what do you think about Sutton against the Bills? And by the way, I think we might be off market here. I'm not sure, but based on usage, we have Pat Bryant decently ahead of Troy Franklin here in this game. So, any more thoughts on Broncos pass catchers?
Yeah, I think Pat Bryant's pretty interesting. Looks like he's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Sutton is like the Bills are kind of built to defend him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Christian Benford is like a big cornerback. You need a touchdown from Cortland Sutton. I don't think he's going to have, because the Bills don't give up big plays to perimeter receivers, and you know, I do kind of like Pat Bryant. It looks like based on price though.
Yeah, Pat Bryant's very cheap. I like Christian Kirk more than Pat Bryant here. They're $200 apart, but I think those guys are both in play for cash if you're going down and punting there, Kirk and Bryant. We'll get to the Houston stuff in a sec. That's a very big decision point. Just on the other side of this game, Evan, do you I don't think Surtain would go into the slot to see Shakir, but yeah, any thoughts on what Surtain does in this game against the Bills?
No, I think that Shakir is like 60% slot. So maybe Surtain will see him on a few plays, but Surtain's not going to go chase around Khalil Shakir.
Yeah. So I think you could do some stuff which I think would be sharp. It's like, hey, put Keon Coleman out there. Keon Coleman sucks.
You just sacrifice Keon Coleman.
Exactly. Like try to get Keon Coleman on to Surtain, and we don't want to throw it to Keon Coleman anyways. So, I think that would make more sense there.
Totally agree.
For me. Okay. Let's sort by Houston, Wigan, because I feel like this is one of the biggest decisions or the biggest stories of the slate. No Nico Collins in this game.
We're not going to even talk about Brandon Cooks?
Yeah. You're right. Brandon Cooks, go ahead. He's going to see, I think, the second most routes behind Khalil Shakir in the wide receiver core. So, yeah, go ahead, Evan.
Yep, me too. And I know that he was, like 50% the last couple of weeks, but I mean, now they need him to be 75%. So yeah. I think he's going to play a lot. He's been playing well. Brandon Cooks right now, I know it sounds crazy, but he's the Bills' best perimeter receiver. Riley Moss is good, but teams will throw at him. And so if Brandon Cooks, if as we expect, Brandon Cooks going to play a ton, he's been playing well. He gets a lot of routes against Riley Moss. Brandon Cooks can do what he did last week at least, which was 3 for 58, although I guess he's a little bit more expensive now.
Yeah. If you want to sort by Buffalo real quick, I did want to mention the Curtis Samuel's back. So like Shavers is out and Mac Hollins is out. Obviously, they are getting Curtis Samuel back for this game. Curtis Samuel has not played since week 11. Now, could they do some scheme stuff for Curtis Samuel? Sure. I think Evan thinks that Curtis Samuel is going to get a few touches in this game at 3,200. As I said, I think Keon Coleman could play a lot. I do
think that Curtis Samuel, and Leone agreed with this, Ty Johnson matters for Curtis Samuel, I think.
Yeah.
It's funny, if you look at the playoffs last year, Curtis Samuel in the playoffs last year, he scored 2 touchdowns in the playoffs last year. He had a game where he played 30 snaps, 3 for 68 and a touchdown. And they really haven't given him the ball in the running game like at all, which is kind of weird. But how much is he?
He's 3,200.
3,200, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. I think he'll get like 3 to 5 touches.
Yeah. What do you think about like Cooks versus Christian Kirk, Evan?
Yeah, Kirk. I mean, Kirk has a chance to get like 10 targets.
Right. So let's flip it to Houston now, Wiggins, because no Nico Collins here obviously opens up a lot. The Christian Kirk game last week, like, we don't want to go overboard on it, but at the same time, I think it's a pretty good spot again for Christian Kirk. He'll be in the slot. Christian Gonzalez won't be in the slot, and you get no Nico Collins. From a volume perspective, Wiggins, like 4,100. And as Evan said, I agree that you could get 10 targets here, 8 targets for Christian Kirk at 4,100. That's pretty strong. I much prefer that to Pat Bryant. I much prefer that to Hutchinson. Obviously, Kirk is a little bit more, and I prefer Kirk to Brandon Cooks here also. So I don't want to say it's priority for me to get to Christian Kirk, but I do think he's the best guy 4,500 and below here. What do you think about making Kirk a priority, Wiggins?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said as far as how you were ranking him. So, I mean, it seems like you like him a little bit more in the projection. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you get him up to like 10.5, give him an extra point, then he starts to look like possibly a priority, especially given the guys around him. So the more, coming into the show, I wasn't thinking he was, but the more I'm thinking about it and just looking at the way builds are shaking out, you probably want Kirk in your cash build, I think. I mean, he went for 31 last week. I know his expected points were only like 15, so he ran pretty hot, but nonetheless, like, I don't know if any of these other guys in this range are capable of a 30 ball.
Yeah. And Nico Collins didn't leave the game until after like 20 routes or something, 20 something routes last week. So he had competition and he was out earning Nico Collins for targets while Nico Collins was out there last week. I also think Xavier Hutchinson's best attribute is blocking, not necessarily catching the ball. Not that he can't, make some plays and have a game here on a 4-game slate, but, I think he's more of a blocker. Jaden Higgins is the one that is going to play every snap. Like Higgins and Hutchinson are going to play.
You think Higgins is going to play every snap, huh?
I think Higgins is going to play every snap in the Nico role, yeah. And then Kirk comes in the slot for 3 wide receiver sets. I do think they'll have plenty of 3 wide receiver sets here, though, which is fine for Kirk. They just don't want to play Jalen Noel on offense seemingly at all. He's like a core special teams return guy for them now. So
I'd forget about Jalen Noel. So you think it's going to be
Hutchinson and Higgins on the outside.
Hutchinson, Higgins outside, Kirk slot.
Yeah. And, we have Dalton Schultz with the most points out of this, and I agree with that. I think Dalton Schultz, if I was to play one Houston pass catcher, it would be Dalton Schultz, I think. Do you have a take on that, Evan? Like Schultz versus Kirk?
Schultz versus Christian Kirk?
Yeah.
Yeah, Schultz by a little bit.
Yeah.
Schultz by a little bit. I'll tell you what, in week 18, you remember the Texans rested Nico Collins.
Yep.
And Xavier Hutchinson had 9 targets in that game and went 5 for 84. Now, half of that game was played by Davis Mills.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that Xavier Hutchinson could get a lot of Christian Gonzalez.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't totally write off Xavier Hutchinson at 3,400.
I was thinking Gonzalez would be on Jaden Higgins as more of a threat. You don't think that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, Jaden Higgins has been, I think, somewhat underwhelming this season to the point where they reduced his routes lately. Now, they won't reduce his routes here because they don't have Nico Collins, but I've been somewhat underwhelmed by Jaden Higgins. And so if he's going to see Gonzalez also and he's 4,600, I don't love that. I like the Hutchinson, Kirk, Schultz more personally than Jaden Higgins.
You know who played a lot last week? Over half the snaps was Cade Stover. He doesn't do anything, but he plays a lot.
Yeah. And that's why we don't have Christian Kirk like for more points, because he's only going to be in the slot, I think. And so 2 tight end sets, not great for your slot man in terms of usage here, at least. Wiggins, I think that's an important spot here. Any final thoughts on Houston before we move on to other wide receivers?
Yeah, I just, you guys said you prefer Schultz over Kirk. I agree in a vacuum, but you look at the opportunity cost of tight end and you look at what's going on at receiver, I think that would edge Kirk out for me as a better play.
Okay. Let's go to Seattle receivers. I mean, Wiggins and I have both torched a lot of money on Rashid Shaheed since he came to Seattle. Like, they've not had any plan for him whatsoever, which shocked me after they traded for him. Now, they've had 2 weeks to get ready for this game. You want to make some big plays? I could see them scheming some stuff for Shaheed, but we have to have Cooper Kupp ahead in projection. He plays so much more, and he has such a better role, at least right now, even though it's not a great role because they throw to JSN on every single play. So, Evan, any thoughts on Seattle pass catchers here beyond JSN?
It does help. There was a chance that Elijah Arroyo was going to come back, and he's out.
Correct.
But
out.
I think that helps a little bit. If you want to tell yourself a story about AJ Barner, I mean, theoretically, Seahawks could put up a lot of points here, and if they put up 30, decent chance that AJ Barner is a part of that and gets into the end zone. Other than that, I mean, I think you could talk yourself into Cooper Kupp a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's cheap enough, right?
It's very cheap.
He's definitely going to play a lot.
Oh, he's going to be out there a ton against a very bad defense. Like, I think Cooper Kupp, like, if you show up with Cooper Kupp in cash, like, I don't think that's the end of the world at all. In fact, like, him versus Hutchinson, I think it's
kind of
cool.
nice.
Yeah. What do you think about him versus Xavier Hutchinson? Like, Kupp or Xavier Hutchinson? They're basically the same price.
I think I'd go with Cooper Kupp, maybe for sure, actually.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. Let's go
You think for sure? I mean, Cooper Kupp.
Over Xavier Hutchinson, though. I mean, we're talking about a blocking receiver against the Patriots, and Cooper Kupp is going to be out there a lot against a really bad defense. That's it.
I just don't understand the Shaheed stuff. He looks so juiced up whenever he touches the ball. Like, there's been, he had like a 30-yard on a reverse that he looked great. He returned a kickoff. He's returned a punt. Like, how are you not getting this guy more involved? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Maybe the YouTube commenters were right. If you are a really great return man, you can't play wide receiver in the NFL.
Wiggins,
we know he's a good receiver. Like, we've seen it. I know.
Yeah. And they went out of their way to trade for him with a coach that knew him already also. You know what I mean? It's like really weird. But
I'm going to play him again.
What you can do, Wiggins, if you're going to play him with Seattle D, man.
Yeah. Double dip.
You might get it. You might get the kickoff return for a touchdown, which would count for Seattle D. And Shaheed would count the touchdown as well. 12 points for you if you play Shaheed and Seattle D and they score.
I took in the Rams Thursday nighter, right? Rashid Shaheed, 58 yards.
Yeah, he's done it twice on Seattle.
The baller.
I took third in the showdown slate. Shaheed was my captain. I had both the running backs. I had the defense. I was going for the double dip, and all I needed was one. He had one catch for 2 yards, I think. I needed like 2 for 20, and I would have won the thing. It's 40K swing. So thanks, Shaheed, for not being able to get 20 yards.
Let's go to Bears pass catchers here. It's tough because they have a lot of mouths to feed now with everyone back. And you saw Cole Kmet's role get reduced, which I was happy to see. You saw Alameda Zacchaeus' role get reduced, which I was happy to see. We now have very low projections on those guys. So it's really the top 4 here. Now, Loveland's eating up so much of it. Maybe there'll be some adjustment here from Rams defense. I also said I like Burden as a guy who can just like break the slate on low volume. Evan, it sounded like you liked Rome Odunze here. Any more thoughts on stacking with Caleb and your favorite ways to do that here against the Rams?
I think it's Odunze and Loveland is what I like. Odunze based on the matchup, Loveland based on being the best tight end in the NFL.
And that's going to be contrarian, Wiggins, because I don't think people want to play Rome here. I mean, we only have hit 3 or 4% on Rome. I like DJ Moore decently also as just like the healthier guy. But yeah, Wiggins, any thoughts on Bears pass catchers?
I wish I had a strong take. I think people want to play Burden the most because he's the cheapest and he's just the sexiest. But maybe not the best play, especially considering that he's going to have the most ownership. Gun to my head, probably DJ Moore over Rome, but I would mix and match, and I might play the lotto where I just play a lot of Caleb and just mix and match these guys.
I love Burden. You guys know he's a baller. It just kind of bothers me that he was out there running bad routes last week, and I think contributed to both of Caleb Williams' interceptions. Certainly on the wide open one where it just looked like Caleb just threw it to the Packers defensive back. Burden screwed that up, like, for sure. It's just like a reminder, like, this is why Burden is not a full-time player, why he's so limited, and they're not taking the restrictions off. They have taken the restrictions off Colson Loveland.
That being said, with Burden, there was a play, I believe the ball got tipped, but he looked like he was wide open and Caleb had hit him. I think they botched the snap and just the whole play was a little off, but it could have been a 7-yard touchdown. So, if he scores a 7-yard touchdown, how are we talking about him today? Probably a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go to Patriots wide receivers. I mentioned the Booty last week. You guys laughed at me, and Booty played his ass off last week. Now, this is a very different setup for Kayshon Boutte. I do not like him here, and this is where you start to get into really tough stuff with Drake May because it's hard to get excited about any of these guys. Even Steph Diggs at 5,800 in this matchup is tough to get excited about. Evan, if you were going to play Drake May, who do you think you would play with Mr. May?
Man, you love Keishon Booty. All of a sudden, just out of the woodwork,
Not
Adam
this week.
Levitan he had 4 for 66, played his ass off. You guys were laughing at me, played his ass off. I love it. Yeah, that actually is a nice pun. Yeah, it would be Diggs.
Yeah.
I mean, the matchup is so freaking brutal.
Right.
But
yeah. Yeah, and it's really tough to play Drake May, Wiggins. I feel like he's going to be completely unowned. And for such a good quarterback, I don't love that on a 4-game slate, but I don't really see a great way that I want to play Drake May either here. So I guess I'm just not going to play it. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking at this 27% ownership on Diggs, and I think we got to come down on that. I just don't think you're really only playing Diggs if you play him with Drake May, and I just don't think people are going to play it. So, for a low own approach, I think it's okay. I'm probably not going to get there, but it's kind of a classic. Like, how bad can it be if Diggs comes in at like 15% and May's like sub 10, which I think is probably pretty realistic. And for a 4-game slate, that's really low.
Yeah. Last one is the 49ers wide receivers. I've been underwhelmed by Juwan Jennings. They certainly need him badly here. I mean, badly, with no George Kittle. Tongus has been. Every time I watch, I'm like, he can play a little bit, man. He's not like the most explosive guy, but he can play a little bit. And he's 3,400. I had a team that I was looking at on DraftKings for cash that had both Loveland and Tongus to save money here. Evan, thoughts on 49ers pass catchers? And by the way, I should note, we have very, very, very severe injury docs on Ricky Pearsall, more than our normal Q doc. We think that's right, but who knows? These guys get injections. I mean, it's tough. So yeah, Evan, any thoughts on 49ers pass catchers?
Yeah, it's just we've been through this with Pearsall. He has the aggravations. He tries to come back. He puts up zeros for 3 weeks, and he finally gets healthy. Start throwing in the ball. He balls out. He aggravates, just over and over and over again with him. And also, there's the factor of Demarcus Robinson played really well last week. Did he earn snaps at Ricky Pearsall's expense? I mean, there's a case to be made for that. So that's another concern with Pearsall. Jennings, theoretically, I mean, I think Jennings can get a lot of targets. I understand he's a capped ceiling player. He ran 4.72 or something coming out of Tennessee. He just is what he is. But we've seen him have, in the right spots, really big target games. And then as for Jake Tongus, you look at just the last 4 games that George Kittle has missed, Tongus was good in every single one of them.
Yeah. I mean, you can save a lot of money, Wiggins, by playing Tongus. Now, the question is, do you play Tongus with Loveland? We'll get to tight end here in a second, but I do think Tongus is in play for cash, and he's going to be very owned in tournaments here at 30%.
He's a stone cold lock in cash, and I think he's going to come in at like 40 or 50% owned, just as one of the really clear value plays on the slate. He's been solid, and it's a great price tag. I can't imagine not having him in cash.
Yeah. He's going to be out there for almost every snap. Tongus will also. Okay, I'm just looking over my wide receiver list here to make sure that we hit on everyone on my list, and it looks like we indeed did. Any other wide receivers for you guys before we move on?
Just a quote from Shanahan from Coach Speak on Pearsall. He's still battling it. That's why he's still questionable. We'd never put a guy on an exact snap count, especially in a playoff game, but we also understand where he's at, and then it would probably have to be different than his true status when he's 100% healthy. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we're going to show unders, I think, or I don't know if we are actually, because the market's really low on Pearsall also, but yeah, we have really severe docs on Pearsall, which flows through to the other guys like Tongus and Jennings, et cetera. All right.
One last question. If you were playing Bo Nix,
yeah,
who are you stacking him with?
Well, definitely not with Evan Ingram. I mean, Buffalo's been so good against tight ends. So I think you can actually play him with RJ Harvey. The usage between Bryant and Franklin has been wide. I just think the talent gap isn't as wide So if Franklin's going to be like 1% and Pat Bryant's going to be like 15, I think with Franklin's interesting. And I'd probably include Sutton in there too. Like when Bo Nix has big games, it's usually Sutton. Is at least in the mix.
I think Bryant will be far and away the most popular. Well,
Right.
I mean, we have Sutton for more, but I think Bryant with that price tag would be my bet.
Yeah. I don't like Bryant at ownership. Yeah. I just don't trust the whole situation there with Peyton and the rotation and everything.
Yep.
Marvin Mims is fast, and the Bills are without their fastest cornerback, Maxwell Hairston.
Yeah.
And God, let me double check that Marvin Mims has been.
He hasn't been playing very much. I mean,
I
What are
know.
you going to say? You check and see if he's returning punts because we might have
Yeah.
opportunity.
another double dip.
I think he is still returning punts.
Oh, he is. That's his main role now, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Right.
For sure.
So
Yeah. He's
I
been
mean-
returning punts, not kicks. Although he was returning kicks, he could return kicks.
Yeah,
He's definitely been returning punts.
Yeah, he's their main return man for sure. He only played 19 offensive snaps in week 18 though. So like it's real thin on offense with Marvin Mims.
just get that Broncos defense in there with him.
All
There's
right.
no better feeling in this world than hitting a double dip. And I had a double dip with the Parker Washington Jags earlier this year, and oh my God,
That's right.
still buzzing from it.
All right, tight end. I think we've hit on Loveland enough here. Again, to me, the big question in cash is: do you want to play Loveland or do you want to try to jam Adams? Puka and JSN and CMC all in together? As we said, there's other options. Tongas is certainly a solid one. Schultz, I think, will lead the Texans in targets here against New England. AJ Barner is fine. And then if I knew Dalton Kincaid was healthy, again, I think the best way for Josh Allen to have a passing day is through Dalton Kincaid. I just don't know how healthy he is. Now, they did not list him on the final injury report, Dalton Kincaid. I think he went LP, not on the final report. So, I think we should be higher on Kincaid projection here. One of the reasons we're not is because of this injury stuff. So it's tough. Evan, what do you think about Kincaid here against the Bills? I'm sorry, against the Broncos.
Just this is another situation. Is this a PCL too?
I don't know if they've ever specified.
Yeah, I think he was on the injury report with 2 injuries this week.
Yeah, I think calf and
They
knee.
added one. Yeah.
Calf, yeah.
Yeah, he's just a really frustrating dude. I think that he rarely ever plays even half of the Bills' offensive snaps. I think that they do that, partly because he's not a great blocker, but also because they're trying to keep him healthy.
Yeah.
And he still can't stay healthy, even though he plays like 40% of the snaps. Yeah, I don't trust his health.
Yeah.
I think
If was
Dawson
like-
Knox is at least mildly interesting at 3,300 because of that.
Right. I have both those guys on my list. Just like if I'm going to play Josh and I want to stack him, and maybe you don't even have to, but like Cooks is certainly in the mix for me, and then both tight ends are in the mix for me, and James Cook. Also.
Would you consider playing both of them with Josh Allen?
I don't think it's crazy, man. 4-game slate. Well, I mean, it's not going to sim well because we have such a bad projection on Knox, but yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Other tight ends that we haven't talked about that were on my list, Higbee and Parkinson. I just thought Higbee's came back and looks really healthy. Like time off for Tyler Higbee, I thought was really good for him. So even though Parkinson plays more, I think I'd prefer to play Higbee here over Parkinson. Do you have a take on the Rams tight ends? But I'm a little bit put off because Ferguson is going to be back this week. And so it's not as clean as it was last week. But yeah, Evan, any thoughts on the Rams tight ends?
Yeah, I do think there's also a scenario where Ferguson is back, but barely plays.
Yeah.
I'd probably lean toward what you had. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you're probably just touchdown hunting with Parkinson versus Higbee. But I think that Higbee is a better player. He may not play as many snaps. Parkinson got the touchdown last week, of course. But Higbee looked awesome in their game before that. I would go with Higbee. I just think he's better.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, and including Stafford triples that include one of the tight ends interest me. Maybe that's too much Rams, but that's at least interesting to me if they get into some kind of shootout there with the Bears. And again, that game is the highest total of the week. And again, like I think about totals a lot with tight ends because so much of tight end scoring comes down to touchdowns. And so if you think the Rams are going to score the most points this week, which I kind of think that they are, tight ends are definitely in the mix. Other tight ends we haven't talked about on my list, AJ Barner, a dad runner, but one of the featured players in their offense somehow. It's like not exciting, but yeah, I think he'll get 5 or 6 targets in this game. I don't know what else to say beyond that. Evan, anything stand out to you about Barner this week against San Francisco?
Just the same theory that you had on the Rams, that if the Seahawks can score 30, which I think the Seahawks have the highest team total.
Probably, yeah. I'll check.
Yeah. If they can score 30, like Barner's probably going to, good chance he scores a touchdown.
Yeah.
If you look at his game logs, he's just nothing decent. Oh, scored a touchdown, nothing decent.
It's actually a tie at the top. Seattle 26 team total and the Rams 26 team total. Then you get down to the Broncos, Bears, and Bills. Only other tight end on my list that we haven't talked about is Hunter Henry. Just goes back, Wiggins, to like really hard to play New England stuff because the pricing, like, yeah, I can make a case for Hunter Henry, but he's playing Houston and he's 4,500 here. So it would be a large field type of thing only. I guess if I was going to play May, maybe Henry is the best to play it with, or maybe you just play it with Ramondre, honestly. But yeah, Wiggins, any thoughts on Henry or any other tight end thoughts?
Not really. I think the most off the board play I'm looking at here is Kincaid, maybe Higbee, and just like a double or triple stack.
Yeah.
I think eating the chalk on Loveland is good. I think he'll be more owned than 25%, but I don't know. You start moving these ownerships around, they got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
But if he is 25%, I will absolutely be overweight on Loveland.
No, I think we need to like come up on Loveland and come down on guys like Cortland Sutton and Diggs and guys like that, because there'll be much more stars and scrubs at wide receiver, and then people try to do that and play Loveland. I think it'll be like the most common build.
Yeah.
All right, defense. Optimals were giving me a lot of Denver against Josh. That's tough after Josh played like a perfect game last week, but short week for Buffalo. Josh has been banged up. If the Broncos defense is actually hitting coming off of a bye week, I think it's fine. Seahawks, though, are the one that I think is the best price adjusted. Wiggins, do you think it's a priority to get to Seahawks and Cat?
No, but I'd really like to have them, I think is the way I'd put it. I'm surprised they're not projecting for more, honestly. 7.3 feels a little light to me.
Yeah. I mean, Trent's there, like they protect so much better when Trent's in there, but yeah. I mean, we didn't adjust 49ers defense projection for the Darnold thing. I'll say that. I know that's the punt, right? Like if you wanted to punt, if you wanted to try to like jam in everything, you might have to end up playing 49ers defense, which if the high score on the slate is like 8 or 9 from defense, then 49ers going to be just fine, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle averages 10.5 points on the season. San Francisco is super banged up. It's in Seattle. So even at this projection, compare it, when you're comparing it to the other ones, I think they're still clearly the best play. But if you nudge them up a little bit in your mind, I just feel like there's a chance that San Francisco just completely melts down here. We've seen it from Purdy in the past.
Yeah.
So, I think if you're not playing them, like the other options aren't that great. Like the Broncos are fine. They're good defense, but they're playing the freaking Bills. And then you can go all the way down to the 49ers. Don't project well, but they're 2.2K. And we keep talking about how Darnold could blow up. So I think they're fine.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have the Seahawks.
Agreed. The one that I think like has the best chance to like actually separate is the most expensive one. I mean, maybe you could say Seahawks, but given the state of the Texans offensive line, and like CJ Stroud fumbled 5 times last week, it was like making crazy decisions. Patriots are expensive, but they'll probably be one of the least owned. And you can mix that into large field, I think.
Just because they're expensive, you mean?
They're expensive. Patriots are expensive, yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite defense this weekend, Evan?
There's a lot of good ones. I don't know. There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah. I'm not going to stress
Patriots would be my favorite, but I mean, they're expensive.
Yeah. I'm not going to stress it in cash. If I had to play San Francisco, the more I think about it, I think I'm like okay with that. I think I'm
It's definitely okay to play San Francisco. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Okay. Any bets for you guys? I forget what I gave out on this show last week. I think I went 2-1 with what I took. I lost Jacksonville, hit New England, and hit Houston. This week, I don't really like very much this week. The only one that I'm thinking about taking, I haven't taken it yet, is Rams minus 3.5. Looks like that line is actually on the move. I'm seeing some 4s and 4.5s now. I did see 3.5s yesterday. That sucks. But yeah, Rams would be probably the only one that I'm actually considering this week. Any bets for you guys on the divisional slate?
I actually didn't spend my time sleuthing bets this week. I spent my time on more important things like the connection between Brock Purdy and Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, go ahead.
Brock Purdy is actually 1/8 Armenian through his grandmother. And Lee Harvey Oswald, before he was falsely accused of killing JFK, he lived in Russia, and that's where he met his wife. And you could actually hit Mother Russia with a stone from Armenia. So obviously they have blood.
So you think that there is some relation between Brock Purdy?
I have no doubt.
And
Well done.
All right. Well, good luck to Brock Purdy and his close personal family, like Lee Harvey Oswald, this weekend. All right. There is one more show. Hopefully, you guys caught the 2-game slate show that the guys did this morning. ETM coming later tonight with Dink and Leone to talk through tournaments for this 4-game slate. But yes, good luck to everyone. For Evan, for Wiggins, I'm Adam. We will see you for Conference Championship Week.